Yeah, a long way from a stuttering kid. I didn't get enough love.
Beans.
All right.
So, hello and welcome to the How Men Cry podcast. This is a special edition of Box It Out. And the How Men Cry mission is to get 1,000 men to talk about vulnerability and the importance of mental health. So, I am here today with the good homie. Drum roll, please. Oh, you can say your name. My bad. I didn't tell you to say your name.
Oh. Cut. Do it again.
No, we're good. So, Ryan,
Barayuga, what's up?
Thank you so much for just taking the time to come out and throw some hands and, talk about feelings.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, how was boxing for you?
It was a lot of fun. That was the first formal kind of training that I've ever had with boxing. I've thrown some fists before, but
we have to ask about those stories.
Never done anything formal. So that was a lot of fun, and I'm super wiped now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Very tight.
Did it feel like a release? Like you said, you played some other sports before. How would you compare it to other sports that you've played? I know you haven't. It's not like you've been boxing for 20 years, but what was that experience like?
It was a lot of intensity really quick.
Yeah.
And I had to use a lot of focus to get those combos down.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I play baseball, and baseball is a very slow sport with small bursts of intensity.
Yeah.
This is just super intense all the time and just building on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you did great. Like I said, you might have missed your calling, man. I mean, you had some really good, some good combos, and I can tell from training folks whatever amount of time, there's a pop to the punch. Some of that's natural, where they talk about people having just power on their shots. You had it right out the gate. So yeah. So who are you, man? And introduce yourself, and that can be however you want to go. It can be what you do, or however you want to describe yourself.
All right. So my name is Ryan Barayuga. I am currently a photographer and videographer in the city of Chicago, really working with fitness professionals and wellness brands to kind of develop their brand, I guess, and use my imagery to, what would I say, step up their campaigns and kind of step up their brand image. Yeah.
Awesome. And I've definitely seen your work for sure from working with the good homies at AMFM. Shout out to Sierra.
Yeah.
And just, we were talking about it. I probably haven't seen you in literally a couple of years.
It's been a while. Yeah.
It's
been quite a while.
Yeah. But no, man, I appreciate you coming out. So did you ever have to fight growing up? Did you have any kind of pressure to have to do so growing up?
Not really. I grew up in Hawaii. Nice. So, and my parents was really strict on education. And so they put me in a private school, and so yeah, it wasn't it wasn't
the move.
There wasn't a lot of need to throw a lot of punches, or a lot of the mental effort was focused on school and not trying to survive in school and not in a life. Yeah.
Just right out the gate, it makes me think, do you feel like from growing up in Hawaii, through the context of manhood, maleness, other things like that, do you feel like there is a difference culturally from growing up there in Hawaii to what you get in the rest of the states, being here on the, I don't know, regular US
on the mainland, as we call it.
Mainland.
Yeah. I think it's kind of all the same.
Yeah.
That hyper masculinity is a huge thing back home, and what growing up being called a pussy and be a man, or men don't cry. That's a huge thing when we're growing up. I'm sure it's the same here, but I still see it in my friends today.
Yeah.
That they kind of still perpetuate that feeling and that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how do you feel towards that attitude, or just maybe some of the conventional narratives around manhood and maleness?
I guess now, over the last couple of years, it's kind of shifted toward you know, us being able to like express more of our feeling and not being chastised for it,
Yeah.
and not being like, oh my God, he's such a pussy for it.
Yeah.
It's kind of more accepted because, you know, now I feel like people see like we're also people and we need to express our feelings
Yeah.
at some point. You know, and I see it in some of my friends that, you know, it kind of like bottles them up.
Yeah.
And they're so focused on, you know, keeping that persona. And yeah, I don't know.
Do you feel like you ever had to kind of grow out of some of those narratives, or have you just kind of always been like, because it seems like you have like a lot of awareness around it just from this conversation, but even from, you know, just previously knowing you.
Yeah.
It's like, do you feel like you've kind of always been like that, or did you have role models, or, you know, what's that?
Kind of everybody I grew up with, it was like very hyper masculine. So I'm still kind of like on the journey of like fully accepting like my feelings and everything. And it's been kind of like a tough like tug of war between like where I want to be and
Hey, look, I'm like, you've come to the right place. Legit though, I'm like, it's a day to day. I think that's something I try to go. I think I approach things sometimes with like a lot of intensity, and I think maybe that was my thought. Is like, oh yeah, you know, I'll kind of get through this stuff, or I'll, you know, now I can talk about my feelings, and we're all good, we're all healed. And then I'm like, oh no, you just opened the door.
Yeah. Yes.
There's like a whole, you're just getting in the room.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I feel that like, you know, like the only feelings that we get are, you know, like the confident, the manly feelings, and we don't usually get to feel. I mean, like when we're happy, we have to be like super happy. There's no like in between.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, don't be sad. Just like get over it. Get over your feelings.
That's one that I'm getting over the
Yeah.
feelings. I'll flip it then. So what does the word vulnerability mean to you, and how do you relate to it?
Vulnerability, well, it's scary.
Take a sip of this water.
Vulnerability is a scary word, man. Yeah, it's really like confronting those feelings and kind of just like putting yourself out there on a limb.
Yeah.
And at least like in my profession, you know, I have to go and put myself out there, and I don't like it sometimes. It's really tough.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I'll only shoot for things that I know I can get. And if I get, or like I'll shoot for very big things, and if I don't get it, then it's like, well, whatever. Yeah. It's like I wasn't meant to be. But like those things that I really, really want and I'm not sure I can get, is like that's the vulnerability part that I don't like, and that's what's really scary.
And I mean I can totally relate to that. Like it's a thing of like, well, just from boxing, I was listening to a boxer talk about it the other day, where he was like, he's basically like, if anybody tells you that they're not feeling nerves or that they're not feeling afraid when they step into the ring, he's like, they're lying. He's like, they may deal with it differently. He's like, but you're just lying if you're saying that you're not feeling, you know, these intense feelings. And I thought it was just such a mature statement, you know, to me, coming from that. Because usually in boxing, especially, it's like, you know, I don't feel none of that, blah, blah, whatever. I'm always ready. It's like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of refreshing, you know, to hear, to even state that. So you mentioned it kind of like growing up, and again, whatever you feel comfortable going with. But do you feel like the men around you displayed maybe like good relationships with vulnerability, or, you know, do you feel like that's something that you've kind of learned more in your own personal journey?
Definitely learned more as I've been here in Chicago. So I've been here for 7 years now.
Same. Hey.
Ooh, that's a long time. But yeah, it's usually like bottled up, and when those emotions come around back home, it's usually bottled up until there's that breaking point, and that breaking point usually comes at like a very tense moment, and then it all comes out. But they don't know why.
Yeah.
They don't know what's happening. And it just becomes like even more uncomfortable, because then they blame those feelings on something else, or
Yeah.
and instead of like, I've learned to like look within myself to like find those feelings, or to figure out like, hey, like what's wrong? Because usually if something is wrong, I've done it to myself, or I'm thinking like, oh, this is like, not a lot of the outside world can affect like the way that I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have just brilliant awareness and just insightfulness. I want to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
I mean, honestly, because it's like, I think a lot of those same things. I mean, I feel a lot of connection to exactly what you're speaking through, because I feel like I had a similar experience, just with, I think, a lot of the men around me, or places that I was growing up in. And that awareness, like now, that's what I look for in people more than maybe before. I feel like I was trying to associate or chase the the more hyper masculine narratives is what I was chasing before. And now it's just kind of funny. It's like this total flip flop. Yeah. So and kind of on that note, do you feel like do you feel like your relationships have changed, maybe because of your awareness around these things, or like, what do you feel like has grown in you since you've grown in that journey more?
I guess man, that's a good one. Because, all right, so a lot of my relationships with my guy friends, I feel like, are kind of the same, because I haven't met a lot of guys that are just like, openly and willing to talk about their feelings. And then the ones that are kind of like either further along the journey than I am, or they're just like on another level, and I'm just like not at that level yet, or just like where I'm talking in this room and he's talking in this room, and we're just like, it's totally different, even though we're both kind of expressing and like feeling our feelings.
Yeah.
It's just like there's no like connect. And then my friends that I currently have, I mean, we don't really talk about feelings or kind of any of that stuff. And then when something like that does happen, it just is like, oh, dude, just like, like brush it off, or like, I don't know, do something about it.
I can kind of understand like exactly what you're getting at there too. Like I've had it's certain realms. I think now, because I'm publicizing a lot of this stuff more, it's changing, where I think from the outside in, people's relation or thought about my closeness to it will change, so the relationships change a bit because of it. But yeah, it's just like certain individuals, or I think it's even harder to see eye to eye, like the more growth that happens in whatever regard.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a lot of support for even just kind of talking through or expressing a lot of those things?
Not from my guy friends. I find it a lot through like my girlfriends, or the girls that are friends. I find it through them a lot more than my guys. Because I mean, I feel they're more open to just like talking it out, and like doing just like I guess feeling the feelings, I guess is what it is.
I kind of want to put that on the shirt. That's a brilliant shirt. If that shirt comes out, you're gonna get proceeds off that one. Feeling the feelings. So if you feel comfortable, can you think of a time that maybe you cried, or maybe that you had to express vulnerability? It doesn't even have to be crying, but the time that you kind of had to step out there and do that.
Man, I can't remember the last time I cried. I know the last time I cried. It's
only if you feel comfortable. You ain't got to go and
maybe not that story right now.
I'm like, it's whatever. This is not to push beyond where you're comfortable with.
Definitely, like I feel a lot of vulnerability like in the dating scene. It's I don't know what it is, but I just like I guess like being with somebody, and then like having to adjust myself to be with that person, or not knowing what that person is thinking, or feeling, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm out here again, like out on the limb, and I don't know what's happening, and I hate that feeling. And yeah. And especially now, like with the way that I guess dating culture is, it just feels like, you know, we have like Tinder and Bumble and Hinge, and we have so many options, but if somebody good comes along, like we don't know, because like there's that next option that's coming along.
No, that's like a really valuable point. And honestly, I think it's so oversaturated, or like there's a book I was reading that was talking about like the importance of the author was basically saying like sinking in to one person. And you know, whatever you want to do, you can have, you know, monogamy, however you want. I'm not trying to lump into the category of how you need to date, but the author's point was like sinking into one person or building one relationship is a lot more valuable than like surface level building 1,000. And that's been something that I've been learning, like literally as you know, just as we speak, of like how to look at and frame relationships differently. Do you feel like, I mean, maybe do you feel like you've had a lot of examples of healthy relationships kind of growing up or now, or like what does that, you know, look like to you?
Like tell me what a healthy relationship is.
You tell me when when you find out, let me know.
I don't know. I don't know what like a fully healthy relationship is.
Yeah, I don't even know why I asked that.
Because it's like I've had good relationships, but you know, like a lot of them do feel one-sided.
Yeah.
And it's either one-sided from me or one-sided from them, and I know it, and I'm just like, I don't either want to put the effort in, or I feel drained because I'm putting too much effort in, and there's no like, I don't think there's been like one or two people that, you know, have like reciprocated like the same amount of effort. Yeah.
And I wonder about that moving forward. Like I have just a really interesting thought experiment that I kind of like run myself through, where I'm like, what is this going to look like when we're like our parents' age, you know, or like grandparents' age? Because I don't know, just the relationship landscape seems so different. And I don't know, I guess I don't have a reference point. I wasn't around in whatever amount of time, but definitely with the internet and the dating platforms, I know that there are some differences. So I'm just curious to see like how people continue to build relationships, because it seems so different, or like how people are approaching them. Because I think maybe, and this is maybe a bit of a projection, but I feel like previously people were so ready to, or like willing to commit to a situation that was probably more clearly unhealthy and just stick it out, you know, than to nowadays. I feel like people are some at least are a little more resistant to that.
I also think that like the introduction of social media and phones and the internet is definitely making us look for like a real relationship instead of the people that are just like in our village. Or because like, you know, like back in the day, like even my grandparents, their community was only like within what they can see and like what they can travel to. So that's where they had to build their community. So you find the person that's, you know, the closest match to you.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's a very, very good point.
But now we have access to the internet, and I'm talking to friends in Australia and in Portugal, and like across the country. And, you know, it's our community circle is just so much wider now. So
that's a really that's a really valid point. It's a really valid point. So this is kind of switching gears a little bit. An open-ended question, you can answer it however you want to. Given everything we've discussed, what do you feel like men need to do more of in the world?
I think we need to just like focus on ourselves, and then let our whatever ourselves are, like let that come out, instead of trying to project a facade all the time, because we're not always we're not always like the manliest man or, you know, the most feminine man. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like there's a happy medium for yourself in there, and it's kind of hard to like figure out where that is. And then like put the effort in to figuring out like what the feelings are.
Yeah.
What it means to you, instead of burying it down and not feeling that. And I guess like, you know, cry if you need to cry.
You know,
right? You know, be happy when you can be happy, and be mad when you can be mad, but like figure out how that energy and that how you can like use that energy to be more productive.
Yeah.
Kind of like in your community or just in your life in general.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I mean, that's a great answer. I fully agree. And I think because that's when I've been trying to chip away at so much, like exactly what you said, of that point of like, there's been so much presentation of who we're, you know, supposed to be, or how you're supposed to show up within the world. And that's like kind of the funny thing. Like I can say it comfortably now, but you know, I do like the boxing stuff and this and that, or like music or entertainment stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm like, oh yeah, but I'm actually like sensitive as shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or like so it's great to even hear that encouragement. And I'm sure a lot of guys will appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you again, Ryan, just for taking the time, having the combo, man. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you for like setting this up. I saw this and I was like, oh man, I got to do this. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was definitely hoping that you would have came through to it.
Yeah.
You know, just bringing some different perspectives. But
nice.
Yeah, if you ever want to find out more about How Men Cry, you can visit howmencry.com or How Men Cry at our IG page. I'll leave some information for you as well, Ryan, when I'm posting, in case some folks want to see the amazing work and shots that you do and step up their brand and all that stuff. But again, just thank you, man.
Thank
I
you.
Really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah. Sierra, come visit us. We got to go do lunch together. I saw her the other week.
Please.
But
You did.
Yeah, we need to link up. We need like an AMFM
that'd be great.
reunion or something.
Yeah, so. It's been a while. I love those days that was a lot of fun.
I know. I'm like, but I'm trying to, you know, cherish the memories for what they are. Yeah. But thank you again, man.
Yeah, man.
Signing off for the moment.
Yeah, a long way from a stuttering kid. I didn't get enough love.